Maybe fear arrived without warning, a tightness in your chest, the feeling of being alone, the sense that no one notices what you're carrying inside. Before any explanation, before any answer, there is a simple and steady truth. Jesus is here right now. Not distant, not silent, present. This video is not a sermon, not a lesson, and not an attempt to convince you of anything. It is a place of rest. A short, direct, and gentle message to remind your heart that you don't have to face everything alone. The intention here is not to change your circumstances immediately, but to ease the weight that fear has placed on you. Have you been feeling anxious about the future, afraid of making decisions, like you're walking without companionship? If at any moment your heart has felt forgotten, tired, or overwhelmed, stay here. Allow yourself to listen, to breathe, and to remember. Even now, even here, Jesus is already with you. Fear doesn't always arrive loudly. Often it comes quietly, when life seems normal on the outside, but something begins to tighten on the inside. There is no clear warning, no exact moment, just a feeling that appears, spreads, and takes space in the heart. And almost always, no one notices. This kind of fear doesn't usually show up as a visible threat. It feels more like a weight that's hard to explain, a thought that returns uninvited, a restlessness that refuses to leave, a discomfort that has no words. The body feels it first. Breathing changes. Rest slips away. The mind tries to understand what's happening. When this happens, another pain often follows, quieter but deeper. The feeling that being afraid means weakness, as if something is wrong inside you, as if you should be stronger, more confident, more steady. But fear is not a spiritual failure. It is not the absence of faith. It is part of the human experience, even for those who walk with God. Scripture itself recognizes this fragile place. It doesn't ignore fear or minimize it. It speaks directly to it. And this is where the presence of Jesus becomes clear and secure. The word says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Isaiah 41:10. Notice how this promise does not begin by demanding inner change. It begins by affirming companionship. Before strength, before help, there is presence. Jesus does not wait for fear to disappear before drawing near. He comes close while fear is still there. He does not correct first, he sustains. Often fear grows because it feels like you're facing everything alone. Emotional isolation makes the weight feel heavier than it really is. But even when no one notices what you're carrying, Jesus notices. Even when no one sees the quiet battle taking place, he sees it. And more than seeing, he remains. There is no rush here. Fear does not need to be conquered right now. It doesn't need to be fought with effort. It simply needs to stop being faced alone. When the heart begins to accept this presence, something changes almost imperceptibly, not outside but within. This fear that arrived without warning does not define who you are. It only reveals a place that needs companionship, and that companionship is already here, not later, not when everything gets better, now. And this truth opens space for something even deeper, something that begins when we realize that Jesus does not arrive at the end of the process. He has been there from the beginning. Many people live with the sense that the presence of Jesus comes later, after fear settles down, after the mind calms, after faith feels stronger. Without realizing it, the heart enters a constant state of waiting, as if it must pass through the hard moment alone until something spiritual finally happens. This quiet waiting is exhausting. It creates the idea that presence must be earned or felt in a specific way. And while that doesn't happen, the sense of abandonment grows, not because Jesus has moved away, but because the person believes they haven't reached the right place to feel him near. But Jesus' promise was never based on sensation or performance. He didn't speak of a presence that appears only in special moments. He spoke of something continuous, firm, and reliable. He said, "And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." Matthew 28:20. Always includes confusing days. It includes days when faith feels weak. It includes days when fear hasn't left yet. The presence of Jesus does not wait for the heart to be organized. It sustains while everything is still out of place. Often what creates restlessness is not the absence of Jesus, but the expectation that his presence must be felt clearly and intensely. When that doesn't happen, silence is interpreted as distance. But Jesus does not come and go according to our feelings. He does not depend on our perception to remain. There is deep rest in accepting this simple truth. There is no need to wait for a better moment for him to be present. No need to overcome fear first. Jesus does not arrive at the end of the process to fix everything. He walks with you from the beginning. When the heart begins to release this need for confirmation, something changes inside. Anxiety softens, tension begins to ease, not because answers appear, but because companionship is no longer in question. The presence of Jesus is not an event. It is a continuous reality. Even when everything looks the same on the outside, he is already there. And this certainty creates a safer inner space where fear slowly loses its grip. This understanding prepares the heart to recognize something even more delicate. Sometimes the deepest pain does not come from the absence of people, but from a kind of loneliness no one sees. A loneliness that is not physical, but emotional. And it is exactly there that the presence of Jesus reveals itself in an even more intimate way. Not all loneliness comes from the absence of people. Sometimes it shows up even when there are voices around, messages on your phone, commitments throughout the day. It's a loneliness that cannot be explained by a lack of external company, but by an inner emptiness that's hard to name. The heart feels disconnected, even while surrounded. This kind of loneliness often reveals itself in the quietest moments. At night, when the day ends. In those moments when thoughts slow down and everything that was avoided during the day rises to the surface. That's when the feeling of being alone grows heavier, even without a clear reason. There is a particular pain in feeling that no one notices what's happening inside. You may be seen, heard, remembered. But what truly weighs on you finds no place to be shared, and loneliness stops being circumstantial and becomes emotional. The Bible recognizes this deep place of inner abandonment. It speaks not only of physical absence, but of emotional and relational loss. The psalmist expresses this when he says, "Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me." Psalm 27:10. There is a promise of welcome here that goes beyond human presence. Jesus knows this kind of loneliness. He doesn't just observe it from a distance. He draws near to what isn't said, what isn't explained, what cannot be put into words. His presence reaches that invisible space where no one else can enter. When loneliness is emotional, it doesn't ask for advice. It asks for companionship, and Jesus does not respond with long speeches. He responds by staying. He remains when others don't notice. He stays when the heart feels too alone to ask for help. There is something deeply restoring in realizing that this loneliness is not ignored. Even if no one else knows, Jesus knows. Even if no one else sees, he sees. And more than seeing, he welcomes. This welcome does not remove the feeling immediately, but it changes how it is carried. Loneliness stops being an empty place and becomes a shared space. And when the heart begins to accept this quiet companionship, something starts to form within. Because many times, this emotional loneliness is connected to a deeper fear. A fear that doesn't speak of the past, but of what hasn't even happened yet. A fear that invades the present with the weight of the future. And that's when the heart begins to grow restless in a different way. Much of fear does not come from what is happening, but from what has not yet happened. The mind moves ahead of time, creating scenarios, anticipating losses, imagining consequences. The body stays in the present, but the heart is already in tomorrow, trying to protect itself from something that doesn't yet exist. This kind of fear is quiet, constant, and draining. It doesn't arrive as panic, but as ongoing pressure. It steals the lightness from simple moments. It makes the present feel unstable, insufficient, fragile. Even when nothing concrete is wrong, the sense of threat remains. Anxiety is born from this inner displacement. The heart leaves the place where life is happening and begins to live in possibilities. And the more it tries to predict, the more tired it becomes. The more it tries to anticipate, the further it moves from rest. Jesus understood this human restlessness deeply. He knew how tomorrow can invade today and steal peace. That's why he spoke gently, saying, "Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Matthew 6:34. This is not a spiritual demand. It is an invitation to relief. Jesus does not ask you to ignore the future. He simply invites your heart not to live there now. Not because tomorrow doesn't matter, but because the present is the only place where his presence can be experienced. The future hasn't arrived yet, but the presence of Jesus is already here. When the mind tries to control what is coming, it moves away from the safety of the present. And the more it tries to hold every scenario, the heavier it becomes. Jesus does not offer detailed predictions. He offers real companionship for the step being taken today. There is rest in accepting that you don't need to carry all days at once. The heart was not made to sustain so many fears at the same time. It was made to remain, to trust, to breathe within presence. As this truth begins to settle, the present stops feeling like a threatening place. It becomes a possible place of rest. Not because everything is clear, but because you are no longer alone within time. If this message is speaking to you right now, stay here for a few more minutes. Perhaps this is the rhythm your heart needs. And if you want, share in the comments one word that describes how you're feeling in this moment. Sometimes naming what weighs on us is the beginning of relief. And as the future loses a bit of its power, another fear begins to surface more clearly. Not the fear of what's coming, but the fear of making a mistake now. A fear that rises when deciding feels too heavy. And that's when the heart hesitates to take the next step. There are moments when fear doesn't come from a distant future, but from the very next step. It's not about what might happen later, but about the uncertainty of what to do now. Making a decision begins to feel too risky. Every choice carries the weight of possible mistakes, and the heart starts to hesitate before even trying. That weight grows when the feeling appears that every decision must come with absolute certainty, as if you need to see the entire path before taking the first step. And when that clarity doesn't come, the heart goes into waiting. Not because there is no desire to move forward, but because of the fear of choosing wrong. Often, this fear isn't about the decision itself, but about the responsibility it seems to carry. The idea that a mistake could bring irreversible consequences. That one wrong step could compromise everything, and so the heart closes in on itself, preferring not to move at all rather than risk failure. There is also a quiet sense of loneliness in this process, as if deciding meant walking alone, carrying the weight of every choice without support. And the more solitary the process feels, the heavier it becomes. But the presence of Jesus completely changes this dynamic. Scripture says, "In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths." Proverbs 3:6. This verse does not promise a path without difficult decisions. It promises direction along the way. Acknowledging the Lord is not about having total clarity before acting. It is about walking with the awareness that you are not alone. Jesus does not require perfect decisions in order to stay by your side. He walks with you even when the direction is still unclear. Trust, in this context, is not certainty about the outcome. It is accepting that the next step can be taken in companionship. It is allowing His presence to sustain the process, even when the heart is still unsure. As this truth begins to settle, something changes inside. The weight of the decision eases, not because everything becomes clear, but because the choice is no longer carried alone. Deciding becomes a shared movement, not a test of spiritual strength. And when the heart realizes it doesn't have to resolve everything by itself, it begins to slow down. Before guiding, Jesus calms. Before explaining, He offers peace. There is a space where no decision needs to be made right now. A space of pause where the heart can rest for a few moments, and it is in this place that His presence becomes even more noticeable. There comes a moment when the heart no longer needs answers. It needs pause. After so much thinking, deciding, anticipating, and resisting, fatigue no longer asks for clarity. It asks for silence. A silence that doesn't pressure but welcomes. A space where nothing needs to be resolved right now. Jesus knows this inner limit. He knows when the heart has gone too far, trying to understand everything. And so, many times, He doesn't begin by explaining. He begins by calming. Peace comes before understanding. Rest comes before direction. He Himself said, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid." John 14:27. This peace is not the absence of conflict or ready-made answers. It is constant presence in the middle of what is still unresolved. The peace Jesus offers does not require effort. It does not demand focus, control, or emotional strength. It simply offers itself. And when the heart allows it, even for a few moments, something begins to slow down inside, almost as if the weight were gently placed on the ground. In this space of pause, thoughts don't need to disappear. They simply stop being in control. The mind may remain restless, but the heart finds a safe place to lean on. It is not perfect silence. It is a presence that sustains the inner noise without demanding that it stop. There is something deeply restoring about allowing yourself to remain there, without fighting what you feel, without trying to organize everything, just staying, like someone who sits down after walking too far, not to give up but to breathe. Jesus has no hurry in this place. He doesn't push the heart forward. He sits beside it. He adjusts the rhythm. He calms the breathing. He stabilizes the interior. His presence creates a different sense of time, more gentle, more secure, more human. This pause is not escape. It is not delay. It is not weakness. It is care. It is recognizing that the heart also needs rest in order to continue. That not everything must be resolved right now for peace to exist. And often, it is precisely in this space, without explanations, that something begins to realign inside. The heart realizes that the fatigue it carries does not come only from decisions or fears, but from the constant effort to be strong all the time. When this awareness forms, even quietly, a new invitation begins to emerge. An invitation not to fight harder, but to rest more deeply. An invitation that appears when strength is no longer enough. And it is at this point that the presence of Jesus becomes even more necessary and even closer. There is a kind of tiredness that doesn't come from one hard day, but from many days piling up. A tiredness that cannot be fixed by physical rest, because it is born inside. It is the weariness of trying to be strong all the time, of carrying expectations, of continuing even when the heart already feels heavy. This tiredness often comes with guilt. You begin to wonder why you still feel this way, why you can't react, why you can't find the strength to keep fighting a little longer. And without realizing it, you turn your own exhaustion into yet another burden to carry. Jesus recognizes this place. He does not come demanding endurance. He does not ask for more effort. He speaks directly to the tired heart, saying, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11:28. There is no condition here. There is a simple invitation. This invitation does not call you to do more. It calls you to come closer, to stop carrying alone what has already become too heavy. Jesus does not ask how much strength you have left. He offers relief before your strength is completely gone. Many times, tiredness grows because we believe that resting means giving up, that stopping means failing. But resting in the presence of Jesus is not abandoning the path. It is trusting that He can sustain you when you no longer can. There is something deeply freeing about admitting that you don't have to be strong all the time, that there are moments when courage is not found in fighting on, but in allowing yourself to be cared for, in accepting that the heart has limits. When this rest begins to happen, even quietly, something shifts inside. The weight lightens, breathing adjusts. The inner life finds a new rhythm, not because everything has been resolved, but because there is now support. And when tiredness stops being a place of pressure, it becomes a place of encounter. A place where fragility does not push you away, but draws you closer. Where weakness does not break the relationship, but deepens dependence. It is at this point that the heart begins to notice something delicate, that fear, tiredness, and fragility are not obstacles to the presence of Jesus. Many times, they are exactly the places where that presence shows up with greater grace. And this awareness prepares the inner life to face an even quieter fear, the fear of not being enough. There is a silent fear that follows many people, even when everything seems fine on the outside. The fear of not being enough, of not doing enough, of not meeting expectations, of not being able to handle what life demands. This fear is rarely spoken out loud, but it shapes choices, thoughts, and the way a person sees themselves. It shows up in quiet comparisons, in the sense that something is always missing, in the constant feeling of falling short. Even when effort is present, the heart feels like it never quite reaches the right standard. And little by little, the inner life becomes marked by pressure, not rest. This fear intensifies especially in moments of weakness, when tiredness shows up, when faith wavers, when answers don't come. In those moments, a person may begin to believe that fragility creates distance from God, as if being close requires strength, stability, and certainty. But the way of Jesus does not follow that logic. He does not move away from weakness, He moves toward it. Scripture expresses this clearly when it says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." 2 Corinthians 12:9. This word does not deny limitation, it surrounds it with grace. Grace does not step in only after you have done everything you can. It sustains you exactly where you can no longer go on. Jesus does not wait for you to be enough. He offers Himself to be enough for you, even in the places where strength fails. There is rest in releasing this inner demand, in allowing the heart to stop measuring itself all the time. The relationship with Jesus is not built on performance, but on presence. You do not need to prove your worth. You do not need to compensate for fragility with extra effort. Grace remains, even when strength does not. As the heart begins to accept this, something deep reorganizes within. Comparison loses its intensity. Pressure begins to ease. Fragility stops being a reason for distance and becomes a place of encounter, a place where presence feels more real, not less. If this message is speaking to you right now, stay here a little longer. Remain in this space without rushing. And if you want, write in the comments one word that represents how you feel in this moment. Sometimes acknowledging it quietly already opens space for rest. This fear of not being enough does not need to be solved today. It simply needs to stop ruling the heart. And as that begins to happen, a gentler understanding starts to emerge. That feeling, something is not always necessary for presence to be real and constant. There are moments when the heart feels neither intense fear nor deep peace. It simply feels nothing, an emotional neutrality that can feel unsettling. You notice the silence inside and begin to wonder if something has changed, if faith has weakened, if God's presence has quietly slipped away. We grow used to measuring spirituality by what we feel. When there is emotion, we take it as closeness. When there are tears, chills, or a noticeable comfort, we believe God is near. But when there is no sensation at all, doubt rises. Inner silence starts to feel like absence. Yet not every absence of feeling is an absence of God. Often it is simply the result of a heart that has felt too much for too long. After extended seasons of tension, waiting, fear, or emotional effort, the inner life draws back. Not out of indifference, but for protection. This state does not mean spiritual coldness, it means tiredness. A tiredness that doesn't speak in words, but in quiet. And even in that quiet, presence remains steady. Scripture says something simple and firm. The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth. Psalm 145:18. This closeness does not depend on how intensely you feel. It does not rise and fall with the heart's mood. It is sustained by God's faithfulness. Jesus does not come closer when you feel something strong, nor does he pull away when you feel little. He does not measure relationship by emotion. He remains when the heart is vibrant and when it is silent. His presence is constant, even when the inner world feels empty. There is rest in accepting this place without guilt, in allowing yourself to be as you are, without trying to produce feeling, without demanding an immediate emotional response. Faith that remains in silence is still faith. Sometimes it is deeper, more mature, more steady. When you stop fighting this state and accept presence without sensation, something adjusts inside. Anxiety softens. Comparison with past experiences loses its grip. The heart learns to rest, not in what it feels, but in who remains. This inner silence does not need to be filled right now. It does not need to be explained. It only needs to be accompanied. And when you allow Jesus to be present even when you feel nothing, something begins to settle in a more secure and constant way. Little by little, this quiet presence creates a more stable space within you, a place where fear no longer rules as before, where the heart, even fragile, begins to realize it can remain without hurry, without pressure, preparing for an even deeper kind of rest. There comes a moment when fear has not disappeared completely, but it no longer dominates as it once did. It still exists, it still appears in some thoughts, it still visits the heart at certain moments, but something has quietly changed. Fear no longer leads every step. It no longer decides everything. This change is not loud. It does not arrive with intense emotion or a strong sense of relief. It is more discreet, a gentle stability, a sense that even without resolving everything, it is possible to remain, to keep breathing, to stay present, to stay accompanied. The heart remains sensitive, perhaps even fragile, but now it no longer needs to hide. It does not need to harden to survive. Fragility stops being a threat and becomes simply part of the path. Scripture describes this place with simplicity and depth, saying, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love." 1 John 4:18. This love does not require strength. It transforms through nearness. Fear loses ground not when it is fought with effort, but when it is surrounded by presence. When the heart realizes it does not need to defend itself all the time, that it does not need to anticipate, control, or prepare for everything, that it can simply exist even with its limitations. Remaining in this sense is not a heroic act. It is a quiet gesture. It is choosing to stay where you are, even with doubts, even with unanswered questions, even with insecurities that have not yet left. It is allowing love to be there, filling the space that was once ruled by tension. Jesus does not ask the heart to be strong in order to stay. He remains even when the heart is fragile. His presence does not depend on emotional stability. On the contrary, it becomes more noticeable when fragility is accepted without guilt. There is something deeply freeing about not needing to run from what you feel, about not needing to rush inner processes, about not needing to explain yourself all the time. Remaining is a kind of rest that happens within, even while the outside remains the same. In this place, fear no longer governs. It may still appear, but it no longer sets the rhythm. The heart learns to stay, to trust, to exist without urgency, without pressure to fix everything now, without the demand to be different immediately. This quiet remaining creates a safe environment, an inner space where nothing needs to be proven, where nothing needs to be decided in this moment, where the heart can simply be. And it is in this simple, welcoming space that a final gesture begins to form, a small gesture, intimate, almost imperceptible, something that requires no words and no effort, only presence. A gesture that does not seek answers but surrender, preparing the heart to end this time not with explanations, but with rest. Perhaps nothing has changed on the outside while you've been here. The situations may be exactly the same. The questions may still have no answers. The path may still feel uncertain. But if something inside you has begun to slow down, even in an almost imperceptible way, that already matters. Because fear does not need to disappear for the heart to find rest. It only needs to stop being faced alone. Jesus never promised that everything would be resolved quickly. He did not promise the absence of doubts, nor a path without tension. What he promised was presence, constant presence, real presence, not after you feel better, not when everything makes sense, but now. Even with a tired heart, even with a restless mind, even when the silence feels overwhelming, his presence does not depend on your emotional state, it remains. Perhaps you are still wondering how to move forward, what to decide, when something will change. Perhaps the future still feels heavy, but before any answer, there is this safe place, a place where you do not need to prove anything, where you do not need to be strong, where you do not need to justify what you feel. A place where love does not demand performance, only presence. In this place, fear begins to lose ground, not because it is defeated, but because it is surrounded by a presence that does not withdraw in the face of fragility. Surrounded by a love that does not pull away when the heart is confused. Little by little, this love drives out fear, not by force, but by nearness. Now, if you want, allow yourself a simple gesture, nothing grand, nothing that requires effort, just something intimate, perhaps closing your eyes for a few seconds, perhaps placing your hand over your chest, perhaps simply noticing your own breathing. And in silence, without trying to convince your mind, let this phrase pass through you. He is here, not as a statement to repeat, but as a rest to receive. Stay in this moment for as long as you need, without hurry, without pressure. Sometimes, a few seconds of presence are worth more than many answers. Sometimes this small space of quiet is all the heart needs to continue. If this time spoke to you, consider staying with us. There are other videos here created for moments exactly like this, for when fear tightens, for when the heart grows tired, for when presence is more needed than any explanation. And if you feel led, subscribe to the channel so you can keep returning to this place of rest whenever you need it. Jesus did not arrive just now. He never left. Even so, even here, even in this very moment, he is already with you.